Before I left for my road trip, I picked up this beauty right here. I've been keeping it a secret because I'm so excited about this. Just kidding. I did pick this up before I left, but this is an absolute junker and a half. I picked this car up because I thought I should make some money on it because it's, I'll show you it. There's money to be had with this, but not in its current state. This is going to be a parts car unless somehow, some way, some reason, someone on Instagram wants this. By the time this video is uploaded, it'll already be either stripped or gone. So I know people in the comments might ask about it. Don't even inquire, it's gonna be gone. But let me pull this car in and show you guys what's up with this thing. And then we'll go ahead and try to start it, and I will show you guys the real reason why we're filming this video. And that is gonna be to show you guys how I go about troubleshooting a car that sounds as if it is at the end of its life. We're gonna try to get this thing started, and you'll see once I kind of show you guys around, you'll see why that could be a bit of a challenge here. But if I'm parting it out or selling it whole, either way I want to make sure the engine's good. So I would like to get this thing started. Hopefully that's not too big of a pain in the ass, but you guys will hear here in a little bit, it does not sound good. So without further ado, let's jump right in. I'm going to show you guys around this beautiful little 328 IS, and then we'll dig into starting to get this thing running. Honestly, if I get this car running, it would kind of be a nice, you know, like starter car for a BMW guy. You know, a winter beater for the Midwest. I don't know, you know, not everyone can have a nice BMW, so a little something something to get someone through. But then we got this, which is not an S52, contrary to the M badge. This is obviously an M52 B28, and it's got a nice ripped intake boot, and it looks as if there's been animals in there because there seems to be mice droppings on that. So the intake might be full of animals, which is not great. It's, oh, this is funny. The water pump and the clutch fan are grenaded. So you see if, oh, there's a mouse. Uh-oh, we got mice in it. Okay, hold on everybody. I gotta wrangle up some mice really quick. All right, I freaked out. I had to see if there was any more mice in here, so I turned on the blower motor and no more mice jumped out. Maybe it was just one. But anyway, that's scary. So here, if you get back to what we were talking about, not only did the clutch fan blow up because you could see it wobbling there, but the entire water pump is destroyed. Which is when I bought the car, that's what the guy said. He said, well, the clutch fan blew up on his son, which took out, you know, radiator hose, took out the radiator, whatever, so there's no radiator in here. So it's not a complete car. But yeah, that's insane. And in turn, that shredded the belt, which appears to have been sucked into the one of the pulleys. You listen to it, it sounds really bad. So we're gonna go through the troubleshooting process of figuring this out. Hopefully it's simple and it's a matter of me finding that there's like no spark plugs in or something. But anyway, let me go ahead and crank this thing and show you guys what I'm talking about. Let's listen to this thing try to start, shall we? Tell me how horrible this sounds. Not even trying to start. So that sounds like an engine with no compression, if you ever heard it. Basically all you hear is the cylinders just boom, 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 basically just pushing the air in and out. So basically this is just me trying to teach you guys how to diagnose a car that you just bought that does not run and you didn't really look at things and figure out what's wrong with it. So could be internal damage, could be no spark plugs, who knows. We're gonna jump right into it and we're gonna find out. So we're gonna start by taking this cover off and checking it out. Let's get this out of here. Okay, so all the coil packs are definitely in place. So once again, not a great sign. Well, there's a spark plug in there. So if you have spark plugs and it's making the sound, and that means compression's escaping somewhere else, pretty much. Visually, I don't see any like holes or anything weird in the block. So I think what I'm just gonna do is take off the valve cover really quick and check out what the valve train looks like, and I'm gonna crank it and see if the cams spin and the timing chain spins, because possibly the timing chain, you know, fell off or something. not really, that's not really, I don't think that's really possible, but I want to see what it looks like in there when it spins, because if the cams don't spin, that means something's horribly wrong. And at least then we can see if the valves are moving or whatever, and then maybe if they're bent. So I'm just gonna pop off this valve cover really quick. Actually doesn't look bad in here. This actually is a really clean looking inside of an engine. But let's go ahead and crank this and see if everything spins as it should. Looks as if everything spins properly. Okay, so at this rate, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and pull off the intake manifold. I got the cowl out and stuff. I'm just gonna check and see if the valves are bent, because I'm just kind of so confused. I've managed to get the intake manifold off and absolutely mangle everything in this area. I kind of just ripped it off because I was getting irritated. All the intake valves look straight, which is not helping our diagnosis here. I'm so perplexed. I guess that doesn't doesn't mark off the exhaust valves. If you money shift, I don't know if it's intake or exhaust, I don't know which would go first, but I think at this rate I'm probably gonna go grab the compression tester and compression test it. With the manifold off, it shouldn't change the results. At least that way it'll tell us if something's wrong, because the motor sounds like there's no compression. So at this point, we just need to figure out if it, like, what's going on here. All right, so we got our hands on a compression tester, so we're hooked up, cylinder 1. Let's see what this poor little M52 has to tell us. Oh no! Yeah, see what this is? This is about 35 to 40 psi. Well, that is that's not good. So that means that something is wrong with this engine compression wise. We're gonna go through, we're gonna do all the numbers and see what they are, and then we'll have a better idea of what happened to this poor thing. Well, I guess this motor is done for. So we got a high of 90 on this thing, which is, as you guys probably know, I probably don't have to explain, is way low for an M52. These are probably like supposed to be like around 180-ish, even 200 plus. All 6 cylinders are extremely low on compression. Okay, so I spun the motor and I got the timing set up at top dead center, and you'll see here the 2 front lobes are facing each other, and the 2 rear cubes are perfectly, what do you call it, perfectly parallel with the head and at the same thing. So we can pretty much say that the timing is good on this engine, so it wasn't a timing related issue. So that can eliminate that, which is cool. These are what all the spark plugs look like, by the way. Completely disgusting black. Look like this car hasn't ran in quite some time. These are fried. Oh, also, in case you guys didn't get a close-up of the clutch fan, that is horrible. There's no viscous material left in there. So that's how these get wobbly, and then that's when your fan will hit some part of the engine and grenade it. And that's how this failure all pretty much happens. But the water pump had shaft play. This is completely destroyed. Hard to say which went first or whatever, but yeah, this thing is shredded. The original fan clutch here.
A few moments later.
It's coming along. I'm trying to get this head off by myself. I cut the exhaust off because I didn't feel like taking the manifolds off and stuff, so that's giving me a lot of issues with like swinging it out. I got the jack under there to keep it off, and now we're almost there. I just gotta like keep shimmying it. Fresh day. I left this like this overnight. Let's break my back and get the cylinder head off the car onto the ground here, and then we'll pull off the manifolds, check what the valves look like, and then we'll deeper inspect the bottom end and see if we can kind of dig up what the hell's going on here. Okay. Whew. So I mean, as far as the head gasket goes, this head gasket is still fully intact. Each union is still together, there's no holes in it. The coolant jackets look pretty good. This one looks a little messed up. It looks like a little, like it's missing a little bit of material, but I've been kind of beating up this head getting it off, so I wouldn't be surprised if that came off with the head or something. But otherwise, everything on here looks pretty normal, so I think it's safe to say this thing didn't blow a head gasket, that's for sure. The head is good on this motor. All the valves seem to be good. There's no bent valves. I'm having a hard time getting the lighting right on the camera, but all the valves look good. They all seal really nicely. I mean, bent valves, you'd think that these wouldn't even be seating. They all seat. A lot of crud and gunk on cylinder 3. They're all kind of, a lot of carbon buildup on this, but like nothing, like, yeah, that looks pretty poor. A lot of soot and buildup there, but nothing looks crazy out of the ordinary. I don't think it dropped a valve, obviously. None of these valves made contact with a piston or anything of that sort. So the head seems to have lived. There's no cracks in the head that I can see, so I don't think it was overheated or anything crazy. I don't think the head is bad on this thing. So now we come down into the cylinders, and you'll notice right off the bat, they don't look great. Like just debris. There's a lot of gunk. Like what? Like, is this all carbon buildup? Probably. It looks bad, but I don't think, it's hard to say what of that fell in there when I was, manhandling the head. Like I said, I pulled it off not properly. I kind of, I didn't have an easy way to do it with the exhaust on, so I had to kind of just bounce it up and down and shake it back and forth. So it's hard to say what's just stuff that fell in there, but I would bet that most of this was probably in there. Cylinder 3 and 4 are really bad with a lot of stuff in them. But if I remember correctly from the compression numbers, these cylinders were pretty decent. It was 1, 2 that were really bad, and then 5 that was really bad. One of these might have been pretty bad, but I don't know what, a bunch of debris and stuff means for compression. Definitely not a clean motor in any means necessary. But I don't know, I kind of want to keep digging because I still am not pleased with the result of what's going on here. So I think I'm going to tear apart the bottom end, pull out a couple pistons and rods, see if we have a bunch of bent rods or something, because something's got to be messed up here. I'm really having a hard time understanding what happened to this thing. So I think I'm going to go ahead and move this car over to my part out location over there and actually start working on it, because I'm parting this thing out. So I'm going to start pulling everything. I'm not going to film any of it, but I'll be back when the motor's out and I can dig deeper into what the hell happened to this thing. Looking closer at 3 and 4 here, these almost seem as if they've had water damage. They're obviously the wettest pistons on the top, but now that I got the motor spun, they seem very like stained with like water. Like, seems like there might have been water in there. And right there is where on the head gasket I said the water jacket looked a little damaged. I'm wondering if this failed a little bit and leaked water into the cylinders, but that still doesn't really explain the lack of compression on all the other cylinders. So those look weird. As for the rest, this one looks really bad, cylinder 2. A carbon lip obviously, and then staining, but like nothing nothing that catches your finger. This cylinder, again, dirty, stained. Cylinder 6 is actually pretty nice. It's still got the cross hatching and stuff. So cylinder 6 looks good. Cylinder 5 looks good, good cross hatching. But the first 4 don't look good at all. Just so much crap on these cylinders. It's disgusting. So a couple days have gone by. I parted out that E36 and got rid of it. So now we're gonna get back into this diagnosis video. We're gonna go ahead and flip this block over, pull the pan off, and check out the bottom end. I'm gonna pull a couple pistons, particularly the worst ones. So 1 and I think 3, and maybe one of the better ones. And I'm gonna kind of just compare. All right, come off. There we go. The bottom of the pan has a lot of sludge, but nothing too out of the ordinary. The bottom end really doesn't look that bad. Like, everything looks pretty normal. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull cylinder number 3, piston and rod, and give them a once over. Otherwise, like, the rods all look straight. There's no bent rods. There's a broken chain tensioner, but I think that's from me spinning the motor. Let's see what our rod bearings look like. So hopefully you guys can see this, but this is the rod bearing. This is actually pretty worn. You can see all the wear there. I don't know if these are similar to S54 rod bearings where there's a copper layer at the bottom. So I don't know if it's right to say that you don't see copper, so they're not that bad, but that's as far as M52, M50, I've pulled a few of these apart and I've actually never seen noticeable wear on rod bearings. That's pretty interesting, but that is not the cause of no compression. Obviously, this is a totally different thing. So if anything, this motor would have had rod knock, but I don't really think this is enough to show rod knock. You don't feel any of this with your fingers. So interesting development there, but the main cap looks fine as well. Here's the other side of the rod bearing. There's actually a chunk of this one missing. Not even a chunk, but certainly something you feel. Yeah, I don't know. This one's got a lot of wear patterns on it. Hopefully you guys can see. So this motor wasn't great. Definitely wasn't taken care of very well, but I'm doing this like an idiot. Oh, there we go. So right off the bat, I think we have finally found our issue. So if you look at this, not only is it filthy, I mean, you could see the parts where there's literally a layer of dirt and sludge. So you can see right there, like the silver, that's the actual piston. This is like debris, like dirt, sludge from dirty oil, dirty cylinder walls, neglect. But then if you look at this, if you've ever looked at pistons before from an engine, you could tell me right away what the issue is. You guys know what it is yet? So piston rings are supposed to move freely. They're supposed to kind of stick out of the piston, right? That's what seals the compression. When an engine gets dirty and filthy like this, the rings can get seized into the grooves, meaning they get stuck. So if you look at this, these piston rings are all stuck in their grooves. They don't move, they don't spin, they're not protruding, they're all completely inside there. And that means that they're not doing a job of sealing the compression. So that black sludge and stuff I talked about is even with the cylinder or the piston rings. So like literally it's dead even with the piston rings. The piston rings do not protrude at all. There is so much filth on these pistons, it is a monstrosity. So we just found our issue, why we have no compression. Seized piston rings. That is a very rare thing to happen to an engine. It has to be majorly neglected. They basically will seize in 2 ways. Usually, if an engine sits for a long time with water in it, the piston rings will seize to the cylinder walls and then your engine doesn't spin. That's what a seized engine is. Or, which I think is kind of more of a rare occurrence, they'll get stuck in the grooves on the pistons and then there's no compression. That's why this car has such low compression, because these are not doing their job, and that is what seals the compression. So that is really interesting, and to put words to it, the cause of death of this engine, not even really death. Basically, all this engine needs right now is the pistons to be clean, the walls to be clean, and then new rings, and we'd be good to go. We could slap it back together and it'll be running and driving again. Nothing catastrophic, nothing major. So this is a mixture just between neglect, water damage, maybe a bit of a blown head gasket, but I don't really think so. I think this is literally just lack of oil changes, and I don't even know, like, it's probably for sitting a long time too. So lack of oil changes and then a lot of sitting, but sitting with moisture in the engine, which means like short drives were done. Like, I don't know, it's hard to say, but this is probably one of the worst pistons I've ever seen in my life. So now, just to make it more interesting, let's pull cylinder 6 and we're gonna take a look at that. That was one with the best compression. That was one with the most cross hatching. So my guess is that the piston will look a little bit better. Probably not much, but a tiny bit. Oh, cylinder 6 was hurting. Look at this. Look at this. I'm getting all my words mixed up. Too much going on. Look at this rod bearing. Can you see the wear pattern? It's basically the whole thing is streaked. This engine was about to spin a rod bearing, to be honest. These look horrible. Like I said, never seen a rod bearing this bad on one of these engines. Wow, that is brutal. This thing was neglected. You could tell this was a kid's first car. This engine looks destroyed. So I love when things make sense and the story adds up. So like I said, cylinder 6, best compression out of all of them. Check it out. The rings are not seized. So this is what piston rings are supposed to look like. See, there's supposed to be a gap, and they're supposed to be, you know, close, and they're supposed to be protruding outside the piston. This is what piston rings are supposed to look like. As a reminder of what the other one looked like, I'll go grab that. Here's what cylinder 3 looks like. So as I said, rings are closed and stuck closed. So no movement. Here's cylinder 6. They move. No movement, movement. So this is 30 PSI, this is 90. Weird that this is still very, very poor compression, because like I said, the rings are there, but they're dirty. Like I said, there's just still a lot of gunk, a lot of neglect on these, and they're pretty rough. So kind of makes sense. They obviously just don't look how they're supposed to look. There was literally a lip of crap on this, but when I pulled it out, I cleaned it up a little bit. There you guys have it. The mystery behind this horrible sounding M52 has been solved. I'm really glad I was able to figure this out. I didn't think I'd have to dig this deep to figure it out, but it is what it is. So seized piston rings and neglect killed this poor thing. But yeah, that E36 is gone. I've made my money on other parts, so I could care less about this engine. I probably will still sell this block, so if you're in the Illinois area and you need an M52 block that needs to be rebuilt, come pick it up. Otherwise, I'm gonna stash it away, sit on it for a while, and yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is just a little troubleshooting diagnosis of a car that sounds like it has no compression. This was just for fun. This was just the nerd in me wanting to kind of dig into an engine that was messed up, because not often do these actually mess up and you get to troubleshoot them, and it's fun to kind of analyze failure modes in an engine. That's the inner engineer in me. So I enjoyed this. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.